Hey there, it's another podcast episode from the Wednesday's Child Crew, and that's it. You've got your legendary podcast hosts, Sarah and Debbie, to chat through some more topics with you. This week, we're jumping back on because it's been quite a big week. You'll no doubt have heard lots of radio and seen plenty of newspaper coverage about the update to eating disorders issues that has arisen in the UK this week, around amends to guidelines for healthcare professionals when it comes to diagnosing and supporting those with eating disorders. So we thought we'd touch on that. And we've also got something of a special edition in that Sarah is in Dubai as we record this episode. We don't often get to do a transatlantic episode, so we thought, well, we'll touch on that and see why Sarah's there and what it tells us about Sarah's recovery journey. So, hi Sarah. Happy Dubai experience. How's it all going?
It's been crazy, mental, busy, wonderful, exciting, everything possible, anything boiled into one big pot, to be honest. I'm just looking at myself in the camera on Zoom, how we're recording, and I'm getting redder and redder by the second. So by the end of this episode, I might be a little bit pink.
Oh, have you been sat in the pool all day?
No, we actually had, today was a holiday, like literally our 1 day of holiday. So we've just been mooching around the city, and we went to the Palm and places like that. But you don't notice it, do you, when you're out and about? But suddenly I can see it. I can see I'm glowing. I've had my sun cream on though, so don't worry. I've been a good girl.
Bless you. Oh, so no extravagant shopping in the big malls that there are there?
No, I've walked through quite a few in order to grab their air conditioning on the way to somewhere else. But no shopping. I was going to say no shopping as yet, but considering I'll leave first thing tomorrow morning, I don't think there's going to be any shopping yet.
Well,
it's been wonderful though.
Airport shopping for Amy, if nothing else.
Oh yes, there'll be a few stops along the way, I'm sure.
Yeah. So as I said in the intro, Sarah, I thought we'd touch on the update to the guidelines for healthcare professionals. And really, I just wanted to touch on, thank God, well done to Dasha Nichols and all the team involved in, the Royal College of Psychiatrists for doing this work. I think it's so important. And, we've said for some time, haven't we, that GPs and healthcare professionals this isn't about criticism for the way they operate at the moment. This is just saying, actually, they need a whole lot more support and understanding into how complicated eating disorders are.
I think it was we had a podcast not so long ago, didn't we? And I think it might have been Caroline that was on with us, and she was speaking, wasn't she, about how GPs just aren't specialists. The whole point is that they are specialists in that initial diagnosis or that initial referral, actually not even a diagnosis. So there's they're not going to be able to pick up everything that comes their way, but the fact that these changes have been put in place means that hopefully folks will not fall through the loop or will get a better experience when they're actually there in the first place.
Yeah, I hope this is the first sign of, people starting to take the whole eating disorder journey much more seriously. I was quite heartened by how much the media picked up on it this week and really did run with it. There was lots of kind of phoning shows, lots of discussion on TV, radio programs, and lots in sort of column inches in the media. So I just hope it's one of those things that actually isn't just going to be, a small little thing that happens and then, the rhetoric around eating disorders goes away again. But it has to be a good thing.
It does sound like and seem like the conversation around it is more sensible now, though, than it has been. Wasn't it always reported with kind of a little bit of a shroud of, what we're going to be actually talking about here and who we're talking about. But I do think it seems to be being reported upon much more sensibly now, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah, and for me, the next thing is just to make sure that the conversations move from just that standard, once there is a decision that this person needs help, just pushing them down the route of CBT and assuming that everybody gets better from an eating disorder with CBT alone. Because as you and I know, it's the occupational therapy, it's being able to speak to someone with lived experiences, those elements that for so many of us are, well, I was going to say more important, but they sit in the mix, don't they, of things that help us recover from an eating disorder. And we can't just have the same old pathway that existed 20 years ago.
And we've been speaking a lot, haven't we, recently, to parents and carers and doing all sorts of our parents and carers groups. And what always never fails to kind of stagger me is all those hidden little secret behaviours that a mum and dad would spot or a husband would spot, and all those things. I know we've spoken about them millions of times, but again, that initial, right, we'll just send you to CBT, that doesn't unpick the hoarding and the going through a bin or the taking down, you're washing one item at a time, or whatever it is. So actually when we do those parent and carer groups, it's really eye-opening for me that people's experience with an eating disorder is so vast and so wide and so different.
And actually you hit on something really important there, because, you know, we talk about talking therapy so often used in eating disorder support, but actually that relies on the person that has an eating disorder feeling able to drop the mask and feel able to escape their sense of shame or fear or regret, remorse, whatever it might be, and tell their truth about what behaviors they are doing and how they are feeling about their behaviors and what they're hiding from their families and friends. And, you know, that great sense of, you know, I don't know, the lack of dignity or whatever that might be coming from what they know they're doing. And actually therapy can't work if people aren't able to feel fully open and honest discussing with therapists. And I know too many people get in touch and they make a referral to Wednesday's Child, and then I go back and say, okay, now we're going to triage you, and then they'll end up sort of sending me all this stuff about saying, well, the truth is I don't know if I really want therapy because I find it really hard to sit and open up again. I've spoken to someone before and I'm not very good at talking to someone because my eating disorder makes me really lack confidence. And, you know, it is a barrier. So we have to look at there being other ways alongside what has been the old-fashioned way.
And there's also, isn't it, there's the, you know, the navel gazing, as you wonderfully call it. You can talk for a million years and never actually do anything. So it's got to be this triangulation, this joined approach of talking and therapy and getting to the, you know, the root or somewhere close, but actually then they're doing.
Yeah. Back to my it's not what's the matter with you, but what matters to you, and therefore what's your aspirations, where do you want your life to be in a year, 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years from now. Which brings me perfectly on to somebody who has moved her life on and managed to kind of find what her aspirations and ambitions in life were. So picking on you a bit here, Sarah, and I want to do a little bit of a deep dive into kind of where you're sitting personally with your most recent experience with Dubai. I just think we've got this real wonderful opportunity here to look at you as someone that many of our listeners have built up a level of kind of a relationship with over the airways, of kind of, you know, being aware of who you are and the types of things you and I talk about. And here you are in Dubai doing something on your professional kind of arena. And I'm wondering, you know, it's only a few years ago that actually you were effectively fighting for your own existence. Everything had gone to shit, frankly, professionally. And your family were having to cope without you because you were in a unit, and it could have gone many ways, couldn't it, Sarah? It really could have gone. And in no time at all, here you are. And you know, I speed through that. It's not been not been without lots of blood, sweat, and tears, and snotting cries time and time again, and sleepless nights, I'm sure. But tell me how that feels for you, and whether there are moments where you are cognizant of having that reflection process.
Yeah, definitely aware of the reflection process. It's quite interesting. I actually was in a bar this afternoon. So we went today's been my only day off because this has been a work trip. And we went to a bar on Atlantis on the Palm. And I was sat, obviously, you know, with my shoulders covered and what have you, and noticed that there was lots of women in the actual bar, because it was like a cabana, I suppose, by the pool, just in their swimming costumes. And I had my swimming costume underneath because I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to go swimming or not. And I actually took my shirt off, and I sort of sat there and thought, bye, my girl, like, where's this come from? And I took my shirt off and I ordered a drink, and I was eating my nachos as well, not a salad, nachos. And I must admit, at that point, I did sit and think, wow, like, what's happened? Where's that scared girl gone? And the irony being, that scared girl who wouldn't have done that, or who would have done that, actually was, you know, this painfully thin person who was trying to be someone that she's not. And then here I was today, sat in my, you know, my white freckly glory, by the side of a pool, just sat in my bather eating some lunch. And it's little things like that. And I know it's not all about the food, it's about everything else, but it's little things like that that kind of do take me back. Things like obviously, you know, this is not, I'm not sat in some fancy pants hotel. This is just the equivalent of a Dubai and Premier Inn. But you get your breakfast, and breakfast is just being, yeah, turn up, breakfast's there. It's like a breakfast buffet, and you just help yourself. And there's been no going backwards and forwards to the buffet. There's been no, right, I really want that, but I probably should have that. And if I have that, what am I going to have later? And what we're doing tonight, and who we're meeting, and what's going to happen when I go to the school? And if I go to the school, if they offer me this, what am I going to say? It's just been, there's the only thing that's been going on in my head this holiday is work. And the only thing that should have been going through my head this holiday, this time I've been here, was work, because that's what I'm here for. You know, I had 2 schools to go to every single day. I've had a conference I've been on. I've been having business meetings. So the only thing that should have been occupying my space was work. And that's the thing, is that you can't do that properly when you're also filling your head, you know. In teaching, you call it cognitive load, where your head can't take in, your brain can't take in too much in your short-term memory, or it doesn't stick and then you don't learn anything. So when you're cognitively overloaded with eating disorder bullshit, you can't take anything else in.
And the truth is, we know that with an eating disorder, it is just all consuming mentally, isn't it? It is, we've said before, you know, quite often to people, it feels like you've got another job in life. Your job feels like it's sustaining that eating disorder. So of course it's not possible to be at your optimum in a professional capacity in a role like you're doing at the moment.
And it's hot, so you're thirsty, and you're sweating like mad because it's 38 degrees. It was 38 degrees at 8 o'clock this morning. I mean, like, that's mental.
Wow.
But and people, I know people will listen and say, right, so tell us how, because that's what you want when you're in recovery, don't you? You want people to sort of give you a steer as to what direction to go. And I think the only thing, if anyone was interested and wanted to know how, was that I didn't stop. And I do think the more I reflect back now, I think that's the key. You know, in around about 2020, I probably could have stopped in a functioning capacity, in that quasi-recovery kind of state, but I would never have been able to be as relaxed as I am today if I'd have stopped.
So when you say that, just so I understand and our listeners understand, you could have stopped because by then you'd reached, and as we all say, it's not just about weight, but you'd reached a weight that no longer was causing people to have anxiety about you. And strictly speaking, you could say, by the metrics of some healthcare professionals, I am fully recovered now.
Yeah. And my exercise was under control. You know, I'd stopped exercising first thing in the morning. I wasn't exercising every single day. I was at a stage where I could clothes shop. I was at a stage where I felt relatively okay in the things that I was wearing. So I could have but I was still making bullshit choices every single day of my life. You know, and I was still opting to listen to that voice that wanted to keep me stuck every single day of my life. So I think for me, taking that big last leap is why, you know, I could have come to Dubai in that state, but I wouldn't have had the same experience I've had this week.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have made the same difference to the people that I've made this week. And I wouldn't have made the right business choices like I have this week, because I wouldn't have been here as forthcomingly as I have been. So I think that's the thing, is that taking that last leap, that last bit of time.
And what did that take more than anything? Was it just, you know, let's be frank, is it internal willpower? Is it needing to have some other external therapeutic intervention? What is it? Or is it just that hard look in the mirror that says, here's the crossroads, Sarah Ledger, go this way, and accept that a world of functioning anorexia allows you to have a husband, have a daughter, have a career, but you're generally quite unhappy, but you're also making your eating disorder happy, so it's a trade-off? Or is it then, Sarah, choose the other direction and live life fully?
I think at that crossroads, for me, it was a case of, well, you don't know what you don't know. So if you stay here, you know where you could then go back to. So the problem with, we've said a million times, haven't we? We've said the problem with with saying, right, I'm going to be a functioning anorexic, I'm going to function with my eating disorder, is actually, if you're really, really honest with yourself, you know how you could quite easily slip backwards again. And I think because that journey before that, up to that point, had been so horrendous, and there was just no way I was going to do it again, then I didn't know what life was going to be like anymore without anorexia. So that's why then I had to choose that one, because I knew what life would be like with it again. 100% knew that. And I'd lived it and seen it, and I could still smell it and I could still taste it, and it was vile. But I didn't know what the next bit was going to be. And that's why it's a big leap of faith, because it is the unknown. And in terms of what I needed, I think I actually just needed validation from folks around me that actually that was the best thing to do. And that regardless of what was going to happen and what the next thing was going to look like and what the next the next surprise attack was going to be around the corner, that like they were just they were there with me, and it was fine and it was good, and this was going to be a good thing. But it is tough, it is scary, and I appreciate why it's difficult to make that decision. But the decision was well and truly worth it. When you're sat in your bathing costume and you don't give two hoots, stuffing your face with nachos and drinking a big old glass of Coke, then that's when you know that you know life is about the other stuff and not just you and your body and your own head.
Yeah. So if you now were confronted with somebody who was the Sarah of 5 years ago, like, or maybe 3-4 years ago, what do you think you would say to her? Like, you know, what would be your biggest thing of just to try and implore to her? Because we all know, don't we? You and I have befriending conversations. We've had people that we've loved who have had eating disorders too. We've been through it ourselves. And we also know that we have friends and family who tried so hard to say the right thing, like many times previously, to get us on the right track. So can you think what that thing would be?
I'd be really kind to her for starters. Right. And I would tell her that she has a choice, because we all have a choice, especially when you're growing up, you know, I'm 43, so we all have choices. But I would just present her with where she's been and what that looks like. And probably just say, you know, you can do this and you will do this. Just be patient with yourself and keep sticking in, and you can do this and you will do this. And then I'd just keep meeting up with her and just keep saying, how are we doing then? Are we all right? And she'd be like, yeah, doing all right, actually. And bit by bit, we'd then meet each other on the Palm in Dubai and with our nachos and our swimming costume and go, get in, girl, here we are. But it's a really tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one to think about what actually that actual thing that might make the difference would be. But I just, for me, it would just be, you know, you can keep going. You don't need to put up with that noise. You can have peace. And it's really important to try and get there.
And then to start, I guess, recognizing your victories along the way. I think something that helped me keep going was realizing, oh, actually this week I've managed to be a bit more sociable, and funnily enough I found I've had a couple more occasions to go out with people, or this week actually on a kind of, you know, wet miserable Saturday afternoon, here I am not on my own in a house in tracky bottoms feeling miserable and avoiding food. I'm actually out with some friends and watching a film or whatever it might be, just kind of turning around and thanking yourself for making the right decisions. I think those were the things I had to keep doing, just to say, no, keep heading this way, keep going this way, not the other way.
And you've got to have a feeling of energy, don't you? You know, When I was exercising compulsively, I thought I had loads of energy. I don't exercise and I have way more energy now. And that's because I eat. You know? And it's like, you just have you can just keep, I've literally, we left the hotel this morning at 8:15 and we came back at 6. You know, we had a full day of sightseeing and whatever, because we had to cram it all in one day because we've been working all week and we're back home tomorrow.
And frankly, you know, I kind of know your colleague briefly. He's chatty, so you've got to have high energy to keep up with him all day.
Yeah. It must admit, it's been a full-on week. He's not stopped at all. It's been amazing. But it has been, and that's the thing, it is amazing. And it's not about all the fancy stuff. I'm very fortunate that my new job means that now COVID's finished, a couple of times a year I can come out to this wonderful place. But it's not about the fancy stuff. It's about just having the energy in order to take your mum to Tesco or whatever. It's not about you flick through Instagram, and I've been guilty of it this week, and everybody's putting these snaps of this holding, that holding, and I've put mine on this week. But then also you've got to remember that behind all of that is also the normal stuff that you can find joy in, and loads more joy in, when you don't have the eating disorder hovering around and nagging.
But, you're just as victorious in your journey when you're, I don't know, sat having pizza, in a bloody freezing cold kind of November night in Teesside, as you are like being out there in your swimming costume in Dubai. It's just
I'll never forget. I think that's the thing that I actually do think is quite important. I know many people might disagree with me in this, but I will never forget being on that ward, and I'll never forget being sat in that day centre, and I'll never forget having to force being watched over my shoulder about making a sandwich to make sure I put spread on both slices of bread. I'll never forget that. And it's important for me not to, because the minute that I feel any kind of rumblings, because sometimes there is a rumbling in that head still, and there is a struggle, it's an important, healthy reminder for me of, right, come on, no, we're not doing this again.
Yeah. Do you know what some of those rumblings are for you, like the ones that kind of hang around? Are they?
Yeah, what we said the week in a podcast, didn't we? I mean, in terms of food, my rumblings are still lunchtime. Yeah. It still rumbles. I will still have to turn to James sometimes if we're working at home and just say, oh, you know what you need to do, and you'll be like, yeah, and you'll go make a sandwich. I still have rumblings in like changing rooms, in shops. I still struggle with buying clothes for myself other than online, so you can get them all in and you can then send them all back.
I'm so like that, and actually that's hung around for me for a long time too.
Spending money on myself, again, that's another thing that's hung around for me. That's the rumbling that's there. Certain food types, so there is still a list of things that means that my brain has still got some bits of that eating disorder within it, but I just have to talk myself through it. And there's not enough there to cloud the joy of something like this week that I've been on now, or just the joy of having pizza night with Amy. But those rumblings still do raise their head.
But they just become less and less. And unfortunately, what happens along the road as well is you have more of these kind of exceptional moments, or just happier moments, that remind you to keep going. And I think I want to kind of just share with you like how enormously proud I am of you, to know how you feel this week. I think it's great, and I think if just that small reflection can help people that we hear from all the time to feel that it's worth it. And I had somebody contact Wednesday's Child this week, and she said, the truth is, I'm 38, and for the last 3 years I haven't had any friends. I've barely gone out, and I just don't even know if I want to be unshackled from my eating disorder, because I don't know if it's worth it at this point in my life. I haven't got anybody that I'm with romantically. I haven't got any friends. And it was a real, like, she'd stagnated. She was struggling to see what would even be the point of getting well. And I had a long conversation with her about trying to understand that actually it's possible at any age and stage. It doesn't matter whether you're 20 or you're 50 or way beyond. And it's so important to understand that the kind of empathy and passion that comes from people like you and I to will people along in that journey is there, and that actually it really can be done. Because you were somebody that didn't experience your eating disorder until much later in life.
Yeah. And one of the most important things that my therapist ever told me was you have to do this for you. The minute you recover for somebody else, you're doing it for an external reason. Yeah. And you have to do it for you. And it's not selfish to say that. I used to say that out loud, and some people are like, no, well, surely you're doing it because of your family. Like that's almost like a byproduct. They will benefit from the fact that I am well, but I'm actually doing this effort and doing this recovery for me first and foremost. And then once I'm well, that will then have a much more positive impact on everybody else around me. If I get well for somebody else or something else, like a job, then it's always going to exist in this area that I haven't connected to. So you know, anyone that's sat by themselves and listening and thinking, yeah, but I've got nothing to get well for, you've got yourself to get well for. And that's all you need. You don't need anything else to get well for. You've just got yourself to get well for.
And frankly, you kind of hit on it early on. When we know how life has been with an eating disorder, but we don't quite know what's out there on the other side, if we take the other side of the T-junction, crossroads, whatever, actually, what have we got to lose? What have we got to lose by trying a different route to enhancing our life? Potentially. Yes, we're going to find it difficult, but what have we got to lose?
And then what have you got to flip it and think, right, okay, what have I got to gain? I've got nothing to lose by trying something, but what have I got to gain? You know, when I was teaching, I loved teaching. I would never have been sat in a hotel in Dubai when I was, and I mean, I could have come and flown my whole family out, but unlikely they would have come with me. So, you know, just think of what potential there is to gain if you just give it that last push and don't stop when it feels comfortable to stop. Push yourself a bit further.
Yeah. I really hope that there are people listening to this right now who maybe have been in that place, that kind of functioning scenario with their eating disorder for some time, and just hearing those words and your experience has just helped shift the dial a little bit to make them think, actually, I've got to keep pushing through. Because I think it saddens me that so many people just give up at that point because they think, well, you know what, that's good enough. That's better than being in an eating disorders unit. That's better than being wholly miserable and cold all the time, because at least I'm living partial life.
But you could be having a full one.
Yeah.
Which is even better. It's gone all green behind me. I don't know what's happening with the sun
the
here in Dubai.
Well, it's been great to catch up with you and to hear about that experience. And I know that when you're back, we've got a lot of things that are kind of happening in the world of Wednesday's Child, which we're going to be updating everyone on. One of the latest updates is we're moving on from our more recent project initiative, which we were doing for young people. Project Chrysalis is now coming to an end. So look out for some other activities that we're working on at the moment. And one of the ongoing scenarios that we do always want your help in is the befriending scheme, which we're busy introducing some new elements to. So whether you are looking for befriending or you want to be a befriender, as ever, we're really, really grateful for hearing from you on that side. And also just a reminder that I know we say it quite a lot, but if you are a teacher, a parent, a healthcare professional, and you think working with us, having some experience from us would help you understand those that you interact with a little bit better in respect of eating disorders, or just get a bit of a broader understanding of the illness, then again, that's something Wednesday's Child can help you with. Our contact, as ever, is hello@wednesdayschild.co.uk, and you can always check out our website, see some more episodes of the podcast. There are plenty there now, and lots of blogs and advice guides and things as well. So always feel free to get in touch with any queries you may have. So that's the global podcast episode, crossing the byways and highways from Dubai to the UK. That's us wrapped up for this one. If you've got any ideas, obviously, for the next episode, don't be afraid to get in touch, because we always like to hear those. Any ideas what we might talk about next, Sarah?
Nope. Quite frankly.
We will pick a magic suggestion out of the air by the time of the next recording, if indeed we haven't heard from one of you wonderful people about something you want to share. And don't forget, we're always very welcoming to guests. And I've been really grateful to people like Pippa, who joined me last time to talk about her experience of going all in. We've had some great professionals too, like Sarah Parker, who talks about being a therapist and what her journey tells us about how we can support people and be sort of even more educated and informed as carers. So that really is it for now. Thank you again for listening to this latest episode of the podcast of Wednesday's Child. We will be with you again really soon. Do get in touch and keep going with your recovery. There is only one way out, and that's to keep pushing on through. Take care for now.